Well, you should have seen, you might have seen, maybe you did see the epic victory by the Springboks on Saturday, beating the New Zealand All Blacks by just 1 point, 12 points to 11. The third weekend in a row that the Springboks beat one of the world's top teams by just 1 point. Never been done before. Professor Leon van Niekerk is a professor in psychology and sports psychology in the Department of Psychology at the University of Fort Hare. Professor, good afternoon to you. How does a team come together for 3 weeks in a row and win 3 epic matches like that?
Yes, Stephen, thank you for having me. Yeah, I think they surprised all of us in the country to be able to, after 3 weeks, with all the fatigue and the difficulty and the challenges and the hard work, to still be successful. And I think their recipe was to take one game at a time, not to run up to the outcome in their mindset, but to stick to the process and what needs to happen to make them successful in each and every game. And I'm sure they had their plans, and they stuck to their guns and they stick to their plans. And when it was necessary, they were willing to adapt and to change some of those plans to become successful. And I think that constant focus on what is important for them and how they want to play and their achievements to make this nation proud kept them going. And I think one of the bigger lessons is that you just need 1 point at a time to be successful. You don't need more than that.
Is there something also about knowing, for example, that you're part of a team and knowing that you work together? I mean, the motto has become so entrenched in our culture. I mean, I go to primary schools and children will shout it at each other, stronger together. I mean, it sounds almost like something from American TV, and yet it's, in the case of the Springboks and the country, absolutely true.
Yeah, for sure. In individual sport, you can only rely on your own skills and your own ability. But if you're part of a team, you have the resources of that whole team available to you. So you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be anxious. You know, if everybody plays their part and everybody do their little bit, you can move forward as a team. So that passion, that motivation, that commitment to one another in a team is extremely important. And I think it is important that we have confidence in one another, and that you believe in yourself and you believe in the ability of your team, because we are counting on one another. And if we can count on one another and do the hard work necessary, we can be successful as a team. That resilience, that willingness to commit and that willingness to push forward, regardless of the challenges and the difficulties, that is making a team successful.
How important is confidence to all of this and the sort of line of confidence? And what I mean is, you know, confidence is absolutely vital, whether you're writing a matric exam, the English paper today, or whether you're actually going to go and play the New Zealand All Blacks. And yet arrogance is also absolutely fatal. How do you get that line right, that midpoint between sort of humility, too much humility, the correct amount of confidence and arrogance?
That is extremely important to find that balance. If you are overconfident, that arrogance that you're talking about, you won't take it serious. You will think you are prepared. You won't put in the effort and the sacrifice necessary to become successful. And you will sometimes miss the point and miss that achievement by making that thinking mistake. On the other side, if you are underconfident and you don't believe in yourself, and which is a very important mindset, is to become confident and lift your spirits and find that confidence, believing in yourself. So it's all about what you think about yourself. What do you think about yourself in this achievement? If you're going into an exam thinking, oh, I'm going to fail, your mindset is negative, and you would probably fulfill that prophecy, if we can call it a self-fulfilling prophecy. So my thinking is, if you are going to put your foot on a field, on a rugby field, you have a choice how you're going to run onto that field. You can run on with the fear of losing, or you can run on with the confidence. I know who I am. I know what I can do. I prepared myself properly for this challenge. Let me give it a go. Then that kind of self-confidence is appropriate for what you are going to do. But if you think, you know, I don't have to prepare much, I'm good at everything I do, you might overstep yourself and overstep that balance, and then surprise yourself of not being successful because you did not really put in the necessary effort or prepare for that necessary effort when you are overconfident.
So, as the tournament progressed, it seemed to me it must have been getting harder and harder to win those games by 1 point, because of fatigue.
Yeah.
People would be tired. And then afterwards, I wondered if maybe it had in fact become easier because they'd been in that position before. They knew what to do and they knew that they could do it. Is it the same with exams? The more you do it, the better you get. You may get tired, but you still get better.
Yeah, yeah. So we're talking about what makes a person successful in terms of a whole process or a series of events that you have to go through, like writing 10 to 12 different papers in a month, little less than a month. So that process of fitness and mental fitness that you gain through the process is extremely important. Keep that up. Even if you have a difficult challenge, or even if you did not prepare that well for one paper and you think, oh, it was so tough, I don't really think I'll do well, don't let that put you down or distract you from the goal in the end. And that is to push forward. So if you make a mistake, it's just a mistake, nothing else. It doesn't define you. So push forward in terms of giving yourself a chance and picking up the momentum. So yes, a certain kind of fitness comes with these kind of events and makes you tougher. So mental toughness is also a side effect of pushing through difficult challenges, that resiliency we're talking about, and it makes you stronger. Some of the most resilient people in South Africa are people who face challenges every day and to decide to push through them anyway and not be distracted by missing something or not being good at something, but talking themselves with positive self-talk into the process, encouraging themselves to be successful and to become successful, even if the challenge is big and even if they make a mistake, they're still pushing forward.
Professor, we talk a lot about young people and the challenges that they face right now, and I wonder if our society is actually too hard, really. You know, the New Zealand rugby team cracked on Saturday night, and I can't imagine what it must be like for them when they go home, because that society is utterly obsessed by rugby, and they'll be obsessed by this loss. In the case of our young people, so many obstacles in their way. We can talk about load shedding, we can talk about inequality, we can talk about people still, amazingly, so many years later, sometimes having to study by candlelight. Just the simple noise of the community around them, you know, on a Saturday night, you know, local establishments going until 2, 3 in the morning. All of those things. Do we create a situation, maybe, where we sometimes demand too much of our young people writing matric this year?
I'm sure many school children is experiencing that sometimes. Also like our rugby players, the media say things about them, the media reflect on their performance, the media make judgments about who they are and how they do. Even the spectators does that. And expectation and pressure is part and parcel of it. And yes, some people might expect too much of you. You might even have expectations of yourselves that are too high. Some people think perfectionistic about themselves. I can only love myself, or I can only define myself as successful if I do things perfect. We have to change our minds there. And I think every school child needs to put this into perspective for themselves. If I'm an average child, let me embrace that and be happy about that. Let me put in all the hard work that get me there where I want to be. If other people expect too much of me, it's their problem. We hope they get over it. But I am finding balance. I'm striking balance for myself in terms of where I want to be. So it's all about putting things into perspective for yourself. If people have too high expectations, you need to figure out who you are and what you want from this and stick to that. So it's all about dealing with the situation within your frame of reference and your success that you want for yourself. And, you know, society is always going to expect more from you than you can give. And, yes, do the hard work and try and meet those expectations that you set for yourself, but keep a balance in that regard. If the expectations are too high, just re-evaluate them and talk yourself into an expectation that is realistic for yourself and stick to that. So, yeah, I mean, our young people are sometimes under so much pressure from parents who expect, you know, them to pass with distinctions. And you can always hear parents talking about, oh, my son is aiming for 7 or 8 or 9 or ridiculously 10 A's on the outcome. It's so much pressure. Some of our youngsters cannot deal with that because they're still young people. They might not have the skills to do that. So my suggestion is, if you are under too much pressure, go and seek support. The All Blacks and the France nation and the English team, they all have support teams that will help them to deal with those setbacks in the end. Even the Springbok team, if that was the way it was going for them, would have had that support to help them to deal with this, to put that into perspective for them, and to overcome that difficulty and that challenge. So seeking support is one of the most important things that you can consider if the pressure is too much and you're struggling to deal with it.
Professor Leon van Niekerk, thank you. Professor in Psychology and Sports Psychology at the University of Fort Hare. Well,